Thank you, Mackenzie and Bill. And Mackenzie, something tells me this is not your last time on the Washington Conservation Voters stage. Great job. So I have the pleasure of introducing our final speaker this morning, LCV President Gene Karpinski. What can I say about Gene? Gene has been a fixture at this event for a long, long time. A lot of us know and love Gene well. We haven't heard a chance for Gene to talk about his vision for our country and his perspective from Washington, D.C. about how we move forward nationally on issues like climate change. And just personally, I'd like to say, Gene, you have been a tremendous friend and mentor to me, and there's no question that all the success we've talked about this morning would not have been possible without your leadership and your guidance. Please welcome Gene Karpinski.
Thanks, Brendan. It's going to be sad to see you go, but you're continuing to build the movement, so thank you very much for that. So, some of you know me, most of you don't. I've been in Washington for the last 30-plus years doing environmental advocacy, which kind of makes me crazy to be in Washington, but that's what it is. There are good years and bad years. There are good cycles and bad cycles. For the last 3 years, I've been saying it's never been worse, and that's true. For the last 2 weeks, that's such an understatement. It's just crazy. So, don't ask anyone to try to figure out what's going to happen because truly no one knows. That's a story for a different day. But it's good to be in this Washington and out of that Washington because it's just cuckoo. So 3 years ago, when the craziness got intense, we in the environmental community nationally and in many states suffered a huge loss. We failed to pass a comprehensive climate bill that had passed the House. It died in the Senate without a vote. And we lost a lot of friends, both locally and nationally, in the 2010 elections. It was a horrible year. For there was a little bit of finger pointing, a little bit of hand wringing, but we spent some time saying, okay, we lost. What do we need to do better? And we took some lessons from that. And a lot of lessons, but quickly focused on 3. And this came from where's Tom Novick? One of our consultants said, here's some good ideas. Go run with them. Number 1, and this is the community as a whole, we need to do more politics. Aha, that was good for us, good for Brendan, good for what we do. Secondly, we need to do more mobilizing. We need to get more people involved in these campaigns. We need to do that. And third, we need to get back to key strategic states and win victories in those states. That was a roadmap for the future. All of that is happening here in Washington State. So great job there. On the first one for 1 second, we need to do more in politics. If there's any one takeaway message today, 10 words. See if you can repeat them. Number 1, elections have consequences. We need more environmental money in politics. And thanks to Bill and Mackenzie, I got a chance to meet them in my office earlier this year. What an amazing team fighting for our future. Great job, Mackenzie in particular, for all that you've learned. So, taking those lessons to heart, 2 years ago, I stood on this very stage and did something that the National LCV had not done for over 30 years, which is he said, we're going to endorse a governor because the states are where the action is. And I stood here with Brendan and endorsed Jay Inslee to be the next governor. And what I said at the time, he could be the greenest governor. And we went, ooh. And you all know that. I then ran around the country for the next year saying, we have a chance nationally to elect the greenest governor in the country here in Washington. So we went all in with our partners in WCV. And thank you all for making that an incredibly successful story. To be continued, but it's a big win. In fact, when I was in I come out here a lot because you go where the green is, so to speak. When I got off the plane in May, I got off the plane, went straight to a bill signing ceremony. Kevin was there to help sign the first climate action bill, a centerpiece of the beginning of the governor's plan to deal with the climate crisis. So it's already happening here, but there's a lot more to come. We learned a lot of lessons. Then 2012 was actually a pretty good year. In fact, from our perspective, the best year we ever had, measured by money raised, money spent, races won, defeating out 11 to 12 of their dozen, starting to frame the climate challenge as a big thing. We took the lessons of the loss of 2010 and began to make progress here in Washington State and in many places around the country. Again, we defeated 11 out of the 12 of our dirty dozen, which is a big deal, by far the best we ever did. And we sharpened the conversation about climate and about a new energy future. We did a lot of door knocking, doorbelling, phone banking, all of those things. We also ran a lot of ads. I want to show you we ran over 20 ads in our half a dozen Senate races, presidential race, some House races. We defeated the Flat Earth 5. We'd done already 20 some odd races. We didn't expect to do anymore because we thought we were done. And something happened before the election. We said we need to do one more. We turned to our friends at Frank Greer over there, Greer Margolis, which is one of our firms that does our advertising. Said, we have almost no time left, but we have to do this. So we put one extra ad that we didn't expect to do that we rolled out in the last handful of days. So I just want to show that and share it because it tells us something.
I'm not in this race to slow the rise of the oceans or to heal the planet.
Americans always come together to take on our toughest challenges. And leaders lead. It's time to act on climate change. League of Conservation Voters is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank, and your team. So that rolled out literally the last few days. You know, coming up is the 1-year anniversary of Sandy. A lot of us are going to be active in that. To just remember, that was a defining moment. We need to keep reminding people that it's not climate change for our kids and our grandkids. That's important. It's happening right now. We see it. We know. We need to be all in. So as we think about how do we make progress, a lot of different opportunities. Let me briefly say, again, 3s are important. First of all, there's no bill is going to pass Congress. That's off the table for a while. Let's stipulate that's clear. We do need to play defense in Congress, and we need that firewall. But you saw a clip from the president's speech. How many people saw that speech or read that speech, by the way? So if you haven't, it's actually, you know, he's been okay on this issue. He did some great fuel economy standards, but hasn't ever leaned into it. On June 25th of this year, he finally leaned into the climate change issue, talked about the problem, talked about climate deniers, and said, here's what we're going to do in our government to begin to make progress. So one part of the strategy is the EPA, now run by Gene McCarthy, has an incredible job to do over the next 3.5 years, and it'll take that long, to really make a big dent in carbon pollution from power plants. You'll hear more about that. They just proposed their first rules on September 20th. They'll propose the first ever rules on existing power plants to cut their carbon pollution on June 1st. That's a big haul. They're fighting the Congress that tries to stop them from doing it. We're going to need everyone's help to give them the backbone and the courage to make sure they make that progress. That's strategy one, is to make progress at the EPA to get the job done. Secondly is we need to call out deniers and be in their face and say that's not acceptable. You talk about this, the chair of the Environment Committee here in the Senate is a denier. That's unacceptable. There are too many of them. It's crazy. The science is clear. So we're actually investing with our partners to say it's time to get in their face. That's not acceptable. You cannot be a denier. We want to make being a denier a political liability. We need a price on carbon. We need a political price for being a climate denier. So we've done a lot of different things. Back to we need to mobilize. We teamed up with OFA and some of our partners. That's Obama's kind of next generation group. And went after 130 deniers over the August recess so that we, not the Tea Party, were the loud voices saying it's not right to be a denier. We also picked four places, 3 House races and one Senate state, picked on 4 deniers, and we really went deep and said, in your face, here we go. I want to show the ad we did in the state of Wisconsin on a senator. This is not an election ad because he's not even up to 20. It's to call him out and to make sure he's going to be held accountable.
When NASA, climate scientists, and the United States military study the link between carbon pollution and extreme weather events costing lives and billions of dollars, they see the connection and they're taking action. But Senator Johnson, he's a climate change denier. He's taken more than $100,000 from oil and gas and voted to let them keep spewing unlimited carbon pollution into our air. Tell Senator Johnson it's time to stop denying climate science and act.
So it's okay. Don't be afraid to be in their face. We actually did some polling before and after we did those ads in those 4 places. For people who saw those ads, the job approval of the candidate that we're talking about, the official we're talking about, dropped 17 points. That's a big deal in a 3-week period. If we lean into this, talk about the connections to big oil, this is powerful and it's worked. So EPA strategy, call out the deniers, and the third piece goes back to the lesson learned from 2010. The states are where we can make the biggest progress. It's shocking that I would say that, isn't it, Brendan? I run around the country meeting with folks in states all the time. There is no better story than the Washington State story and the opportunities here. I said in 2013, climate's on the ballot in 3 places. The Massachusetts Senate race, where we helped elect Ed Markey. He was at the Campion home in the spring. He's a new champion United States Senate. He's all in on climate change. Secondly, there's a governor's race. Just as there was a big race here in Washington in 2012, there's one big race in 2013. It's in my home state of the Commonwealth of Virginia. I want to show one more ad, and I'm going to conclude, but this is the only race that's competitive in 2013 because Chris Christie will be elected in New Jersey. But this is a race of a climate denier, the Attorney General, who's proud to be a climate denier, against a guy named Terry McAuliffe, been with the Clinton family for over 30 years, who's actually campaigning on this issue. I want to show an ad that he ran in this race.
I'm Terry McAuliffe, candidate for governor, and I sponsored this ad.
It's been called Cuccinelli's witch hunt.
Designed to intimidate and suppress.
Ken Cuccinelli used taxpayer funds to investigate a UVA professor whose research on climate change Cuccinelli opposed.
Cuccinelli, a climate change denier, forced the university to spend over $500,000 defending itself against its own attorney general.
Ken Cuccinelli, he's focused on his own agenda, not us.
So that's actually the first time that we know that a candidate has ever used it. This is a $1 million ad buy he did, focusing specifically and exclusively on calling out his opponent for being denied. So we're all, just as we were all in for Jay back in 2012 with our partners at WCV, we're all in with our partners at the Virginia LCV. In fact, we'll be up to close to $2 million combined helping Mr. McAuliffe beat Mr. Cuccinelli. Climate's on the ballot. And as you all know, the third place that climate's on the ballot is right here in Washington State. I run around the country, say 3 places. Massachusetts Senate, people, I get that. Virginia governor, I get that. I say, Whatcom County. And they go, what? They go, what? So I love telling this story about this 4-3 vote this way. That could be 4 and they say, I get that. That makes sense. We've been spending lots of time and energy resources organizing against those exports. If we can win that vote, we can make a difference that's felt here, but as Brendan said, around the world. So again, we're all in Whatcom County. There's all kinds of work to be done. You all make the difference. I just want to say thank you. So elections have consequences. We need more environmental money in politics, and Washington State is the place to win those victories. Thanks for all you do. Appreciate it.
Let's hear it for Gene Karpinski and his leadership. Folks, that's our program. Have a great day. On to victory in November. Thank you all so much.